and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a B-movie review, and I'll be having a look at the movie Atlantic Rim. So, of course, this is a Mockbuster version of the high-budget movie Pacific Rim, made by none other than the Asylum, of course. Who else? So, I'll give you a very brief plot summary of this film. I know it's a new release. I don't want to go into too much detail to avoid any spoilers. Suffice to say, this is the tale of three soldiers who are the pilots of these large kind of mech robot suits, who ultimately have to sort of defend America from these attacks by these large undersea monsters. There's two attacks really. You've got the first one is obviously a complete surprise. They don't know where it's come from. Well, after it attacks an oil rig. And then you've got they think obviously they defeated the bad guys, and of course you've got a much larger monster lurking around to sort of to attack for a second wave. So that's all that I'll say for the plot. If you're going to watch a Mockbuster and you have some idea already what sort of film you're going to be sitting down and viewing, then like I said, I think this is one of the probably more ambitious titles made by the Asylum, but it's obviously a very low budget film, and they do try, you can see it on screen where they're trying to sort of cut corners. They do use a fair amount of stock footage of sort of like military things, and there's a scene where there's a party when they defeated the first monsters. They think that they have some sort of party, and it actually looks like it uses stock footage from a wedding, I have to say. But you've got stuff like the War Room, for example. They have this sort of admiral who's in sort of charge of this sort of military mech program, and it looks like a bingo hall. So the budget really does show through. Some of the destruction obviously is very sort of computer generated and things like that. So first thing, it's obviously going to be a low budget film. Now I'm assuming you probably know that going in. So you know, I'm not going to sort of rag on a film too much because it can't afford to do certain things. Obviously, this is trying to stretch out as much as it can from probably the meager budget that it's got. If you were to pick this film up and thinking it's going to be just some kind of like, you know, normal blockbuster size film, it obviously is not going to be. So you'll probably be disappointed there. So be prepared for cheap special effects, cheap sets, and cheap acting, which was I guess the major issue here. Now, the best actor here is the guy who plays the Admiral. I'm forgetting the actual actor's name, but he's the best actor here, and I've recognised him in a few things. The rest of the cast generally are very hammy. You've got the main guy here who's called Red, who's this sort of typical, very cliched, sort of cocky, doesn't sort of take orders properly, but is an ace pilot type. You know, we've seen this very sort of cliched sort of character a million times before in different films. So they're very, very hammy, very chewing the scenery. The best way I could describe this film actually is if you've watched the sort of the Saturday morning cartoons in the sort of the 80s and 90s, this looked like it's that transferred into a live action. And what I mean by that is the sort of the way the plot moves, because it has some very big plot holes in it. The acting is very similar to that sort of basic cartoon style acting. That's pretty much the best sort of analogy I can give you for what this film's like. Now, I have to say, just despite all of that, I actually thought it was quite fun. I did actually quite enjoy watching this film. If you can kind of switch off your brain and and that's the sort of thing you're going to like, then you'll probably get a kick out of it. I actually think if you want to have this for kids, I actually think this is probably not a bad sort of family film. There is a little bit of dead bodies lying around, but it's not a particularly gory film at all. There's no real disturbing things, I don't think, where you actually see people getting killed, but you do see, you know, a few bodies sort of lying around, and that I actually thought was quite amusing, because when one of these monsters attacks this sort of shoreline, afterwards we see all these sort of dead bodies, but I thought, well, how did they actually die? Because the buildings are all obviously intact, and it looks a little more like it's been some sort of like zombie attack or a gun massacre or something, because I don't see how these dead bodies, even in buildings that are still you know, upright and stuff, there's just dead bodies lying around inside the building. It's not as if those monsters can get in there. So, you know, there's some stuff like that, internal logic that is just silly. You know, how people get out these mech suits so quickly, and we don't actually ever see them get in. So there's obviously they've not built like a chamber or anything before. We just see them kind of internal shots when they're in there, and then we just sort of see them, you know, getting out and running around in the sort of in the real world, so to speak. The actual CGI, obviously, both the monsters and the mech, not too bad in certain places, I have to say. The monsters themselves, I thought, looked pretty decent. The actual monsters, there's two of them, and they both look, they're both the same design, although one's bigger than the other. And they look pretty decent. They almost look a little bit like velociraptors. You've also got, obviously, the three different mechs who look fairly similar, I've got to say. They have kind of different weapons, and they've kind of got a different colour theme on them as well. But I don't think, look quite as good as the monsters, I have to say, in regards to the sort of design and the rendering. It is a very cheap looking film. I think it's okay if you're going into sort of, and that you're expecting that. It is quite fun. I did quite, enjoy the sort of the cheesy, very much like a cartoon, as I've said. Not bad for kids, I have to say. If you don't want them to take them to see Pacific Rim, you might want to just chuck them this on the DVD instead, or watch it on Netflix or what have you. So not a bad film for a low budget film. I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 10. I quite enjoyed it. Certainly one of the better asylum pictures that I've seen. Go check it out if you've not seen it. Let me know what you think, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.